Okay. Obviously, they released all the Ascendancy nodes, all that stuff. I haven't actually done like a deep dive into like what is like possible with the stuff, so I'm gonna be doing a quick stream and maybe cut up a video later talking about basically all the Ascendancies and what I think, you know, would be possible or neat to do. First up, Stormweaver. Scouring Winds. Exposures you inflict lower the affected resistance by additional 20%. Immediately? That's strong. That's good. And most importantly, that's good on more than just spells. Basically anything you want exposures with. Number 2, this line here. Elemental Storm. Trigger Elemental Storm on critical hits with spells. Okay. Limited to spells. You know, your Stormweaver makes sense. Elemental Storm creates a stationary fire colder at this target location for a duration based on the highest elemental damage for the hit that triggered the storm. Hits which do not deal elemental damage will not trigger the storm. Okay, that's actually a tiny bit limiting, but also nice, because if you're speccing specifically into any kind of elemental skill, you will be only dealing the damage of the elemental skill you're using, of your preference. Yeah, so let's look at a fast-hitting spell, Ball Lightning. Ball Lightning hits enemies every 0.2 seconds. You know, chance to crit, variable. So the storms all there would be all lightning, which would be ideal. This kind of lends itself for you to want to invest into crit a lot, and of course with previous build types, you'd want, you know, Firestorm. Definitely not Comet. You could use Comet. I mean, I would recommend you to try it because it's funny, but that's not like optimal, quote unquote optimal. I don't think I need to really go into this too much. It's additional, it's nice. You can go into it specifically with the idea of triggering as many elemental storms as you want. It's an AoE spell, good coverage, probably good for bossing, especially if you tie it in with like a link and you get increased crit. I know there's gems specifically for critical strikes that like make it so that you inevitably crit. Okay, well, that's not how you spell inevitable, but it pulled it up. Inevitable critical... Right here. 25% each second, up to 100. But then you're only getting it every 4 seconds. And it's only increased up to 100%. So I guess you could use it to, like, benefit the last bit, but there's probably way better stuff. That could actually be pretty good. That could actually be pretty useful. As for what would be specifically useful, I'm probably not gonna play a lot of spellweavers, a lot of spellcasters in the early access version, so really I'm probably just gonna... This just seems nice, strong, additional damage. It really depends on how well you can scale it, because there's definitely just, even from just the sorcerer spell list, there's a bunch of options you got. You got Firestorm, you got Ball Lightning, Eye of Winter could work, Solar Orb, every 1.4. That one's not as good if you're trying to do optimal damage, but I'm gonna put that as a certified you could do this at launch kind of deal. Elemental Storm has 150 more cooldown recovery rate. Okay, there you go. Even more support for this. So this whole branch is you wanna be the Storm person. This is the Storm class. You're the Storm person. So you get more cooldown recovery. You know, that taking up a full Ascendancy and that defining an entire build on its own, I like that. I like that as someone who likes unique identities. Its strength is up in the air. You're not coming to me to know, like, oh, what the strongest skills are in early access are going to be. That's not what I'm here for. But like in terms of uniqueness, in terms of flavor, this is pretty good. This is pretty nice. And being able to push farther into trigger is going to be very nice. Heavy Snow. I love these names. Target can be affected by 2 chills at the same time. Your chills can reduce action speed by up to a maximum of 35%. 25% less magnitude of chills you inflict. Okay. You're getting 2 more, but you gotta make sure that both of those hit a lot harder and have more chill effect on them. No, that's pretty good. That's a defensive thing. This is incentivizing you to chill more and attack more. This is a weaver. You will be weaving spells. You will be pewing everywhere. Okay, and then Shape of Winter, all damage from hits contribute to chill magnitude, which is nice because now you don't have to worry about specifically going like, oh, I need to use the one ice spell, Comet, to get the chill magnitude every twice. You can use Firestorm to contribute to chill magnitude. Chill is a pretty nice thing, and especially if you're having issues with, you know, dodging, or maybe bosses or some enemies are too fast for you, having them be slower is a massive boon. Considering that they're taking a lot of cues from Dark Souls, and a lot of the complaints people have about later Elden Ring things is that they attack too fast and you're just supposed to like react constantly. Having things slowed down is super useful. Okay, let's not skip to 9. Let's go to 6. I already spent 15 minutes on this. Yep, I'm keeping this as a stream. Target can be afflicted by 2 of your shocks at the same time. 51. Shock duration, yeah, same thing here. But this time this is scaling more damage. This one, the chill ones is for defense. This one's for offense. And shocks contribute way more damage. So this is just you wanting to scale more damage for attacking quicker. All damage contributes, same thing here, just more damage. This is more effective damage, which is being taken. Now, this isn't necessarily strong enough for a large Theorycraft, but it's just like, hey, this is additional, nice, flat thing to put on top. You have Arcane Surge. Okay, I've been hearing some things about this. Arcane grants 10% more cast speed and 20% mana regenerate. And is 8 on the opposite side? Yep. Okay, so these are damage ones. Yeah, no, that's just good. The whole identity of this class is weaving. You get to weave more. This kind of seems like you kind of need to take it, especially if you're going with other ones. 1% more effect for maximum mana. Okay, mana stacking. It's good to see mana stacking. I'm not much of a mana stacker. I'm not going to pretend like I can theorycraft some mana stacking. This is pretty good. This is pretty nice. 40% elemental damage taken recouped as energy shield. Oh, man. Oh, that's a fun one. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to write this one down. This one can have some interesting implications later down in the future, because recoup is one of the more fucky-wucky skills. One of the more interesting kind of things you can do in Path of Exile. You can... We will have to come back onto this, because I know there's recoup and a bunch of other Ascendancies, so... yeah. Overall, I'm not much of a spell person. I don't usually cast a lot of spells in Path of Exile, but this seems nice. This is 100% an Ascendancy that encourages casting more, casting faster, having crit, and also having mana stacking to ensure that you're casting quicker. I'm still not going to play it in early access because I got other things to do, but, you know, Chronomancer. It is Chronomancer time. Now and again, skills have 33% chance to not consume a cooldown when used. That is for the gamblers. Unleash, Sniper's Mark, Skeleton Mage. Bunch of the minions technically have cooldowns, but Shield Charge, Sigil of Power. I wonder if you could have multiple sigils of power. That could be interesting. Yeah, you know, War Crying, Oil Grenades to build your nuke, Mana Tempest, Hammer of the Gods. Everyone's posted their paints about that one. Gas Grenade. This one has 3 uses, and each one of these are a separate cooldown. This is one. This is one you'd want to look at. Because even though the cooldown is a respectable, like, 3 seconds, that's like a reasonable amount of time. You could now potentially spam this, because theoretically, 33% time, it'll work at least once when you spam all of them. So you get a potential extra gas grenade. And that would also apply to Frost Wall, but that's gonna require more in-game studying of how that now works. But this one's just flat additional poison damage. Flash Grenade. That could also be really good. Explosive Grenade. Again, same thing with the poison. This one's probably better because it's hit damage. And given your position on the tree, it'll probably work better. Cluster Grenade. This one could be a good one to have in conjunction with Explosive Grenade, actually. So you're just spamming these whenever you have the cooldowns, and then you throw this one for the potential big gamble of not using the cooldown. Just off of its first node, which is probably the most useful. The main ones you're going to probably want to work with. And I'm also saying this for myself, because this is basically a diary of my thoughts. Explosive Grenade and Cluster Grenade in conjunction with each other, spamming those out with reduced cooldown speed so that you can just constantly have them rotating. Okay, and then we're going to move on, because I think that's plenty of stuff to think about. Unbound Encore. Is that behind? Yep, 1, 2, exactly. Yeah, basically everything I said in the last 3 minutes, now you get to gamble a second time. You get a second round to gamble on more cooldowns. So, yeah, based on all these... Yeah, no, the main one you'd want this on are the grenades. I might actually do that. Actually, yeah, now that I think about it, that's probably going to be an off-meta thing I do, and I'll probably will do a video on that. Because I was thinking whether or not I'm going to, like... Because I wanted to do a Mercenary run, obviously. Mercenary is top on my list. And Chronomancer was also on my list. And I was thinking I wanted to run Mercenary more of like a shotgun kind of build. Focusing more on the fragmentation rounds and that kind of thing. But also did want to do a nuke sort of playstyle. You know, big explosions. And I was considering whether I'm just going to do 2 Mercenaries for that. Here, with these 2, I immediately get the sense... Oh, this is something unique and funny I can do. Lob and slob. Lob and slob. Just lobbing and slobbing all your grenades and your cluster grenades and maybe a hammer god in there. Just as many times. And when all your cooldowns are out, you go, oh fuck, I'm done. Nope. Time snap. We're back to it. We're back to gambling. Yeah, no. That I'm gonna have to write that down. Yeah, time freeze, which is over here. They really should have switched those two. Time freeze. Release a large wave that times and selects all for duration. Duration is lower the more times the enemy has been time stopped. Okay. Now, I know people have been talking about this skill like, oh, it's antithetical to PoE. First of all, PoE 2 is a different game. You don't know what this is going to be used for. Second of all, this seems perfect for someone who just wants to run the Sanctum and just rush through all the rooms without killing any enemies. There's a original sin equivalent in this game. Time Freeze seems like a pretty nice get out of jail free card if you want to do that run. That's useful. You know, you can support this skill and all that. It's going to be pretty good. That's about all my thoughts on that. Let's see here. Every 12 seconds, gain 50% more cast speed per 4 seconds. I don't want to defend this one. For some people, it'll be very nice to have 4 seconds of machine gun shooting whatever they want to do. And it may be useful for things like lob and slobbing, patent pending. But I'm gonna veto talking about that more. Going under, he who fells upward. This is a good song. Okay, and then enemies in your presence are slowed by 20%. That's just nice. That's a good defense. If you are planning on doing Chronomancer, this is good defense because this is defense that is always on. Pretty much all these other ones are either damage or defense that you have to use. This is defense that you don't have to think about. And slow is extremely useful, especially for the kind of game that they're showing off now. 20% is 20% more time you have to react to your surroundings. Especially if you have a low reaction time, or you're someone who's a little older, maybe you're a dad with 5 kids and 2 dogs. You're gonna want this. 30% damage taken, recoup his life. Also nice. Also just kind of nice. Not much to talk about here other than helps with your recoup. And you don't have to think about it a lot. Rapid River. Recoup effects instead occur over 4 seconds. Now, I'm pretty sure that the reason why this is here is because recoup takes longer. So, it's probably just pooling all the recoup you can into like a single scenario. And I don't really have much else to say about this. It's just nice. It's strong. Like, these here are not the more creative ones. These are nice additions to the build. These first couple are the more build-defining ones, where the current winner out of all of these Chronomancer ones is actually the first one. 33% to not use a cooldown use. That has the most theorycrafting potential, meme, whatever you want to call it. Builds will be defined off of this. I will define at least one build off of this node. That's how strongly I think about it. Everything here, except for the cast speed. Yeah, except for the cast speed. This is the only one that mentions specifically casting. All these other ones are separate from spells. So you don't have to be a Chronomancer and deal with spells. I don't know why that took me a second. You could use whatever you want, and that's kind of the beauty of this Ascendancy, that you're a time manipulator, but you're not limited to just manipulating spells. You can manipulate basically anything with a cooldown, or that benefits off slow, or uses a lot of life, mana, or energy shield based off the thing. Let's do Deadeye. Now, I'm gonna immediately talk about the elephant in the room with Deadeye, is that it's kind of unchanged from Path of Exile 1. And the only real interesting one as far as I remember, is 30% chance that if you would have gained friendly charges, you send and gain up to maximum. Now, this completely, everything to do with this node completely depends on what uses frenzies. So we talked about barrage before. Then there's combat frenzy. That's help gaining. There's feeding frenzy, pain offering. Now that's frenzy. Perpetual charge is a support. Rain of arrows. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Oh, this one chains? All your arrows to fire in a circle as you spin forward. And then they chain based on frenzy charge consumed. Okay. Which makes sense. Kinda interesting that they made frenzy charges the basically only consumable by bow attack. It's actually quite limiting. And then benefits from consuming frenzy charges, you have 50% chance to be doubled. Benefits from consuming frenzy charges have a 50% chance to be doubled. That's going to be an interesting one to balance later in the future, but given that it only really affects bow attacks, like, okay, yeah, no, that's useful. That's nice, especially if you want to benefit off the additional benefits of these, and these seem strong. That's extremely limiting because there's not much range to that, at least right now. At least from the information we've been given. This kind of just makes it so that Deadeye is more of a bow. Just more bows. You want more arrows, you want more bows. That just... This is building and spending for your attacks. And then I was to say, you have no accuracy penalties at a distance. That's just useful. Yeah, these first two, this whole thing it's its own playstyle. And honestly, I shouldn't be as hard with it because it's sort of in the same vein as the Stormweaver's storms. So this is fine. This is its own. You want to play a build specifically like this, you go down these two. Eagle Eyes, that's just generally useful. Nothing extremely complicated with that. If you don't want to deal with scaling accuracy, take that. And then here we go. The triple, or is it double? No, it's double. Projectiles deal 20% more hit damage to targets in the first 3.5 meters of movement, scaling down distance traveled to reach 0 after 7. And then Par Shot. Yeah. I like this. I like this a lot just because it really lets you choose if you want to be one or the other. Because if you're going down this way, endless munitions, skill fire, and additional projectiles is just good for both of these. It's good that they give you the option for these two. Same thing with skill fire and additional projectile. You can apply an additional mark. Again, that's just more damage. I'm going to quickly look up mark to see anything interesting. Yeah, you got Voltactic, Shock, Sniper, which is crit against... Oh, Sniper's mark is no longer limited to bows. Interesting. The next critical hit the target receives consumes the mark to deal extra damage and grants you frenzy charges. Okay, that's just nice in general. I got distracted for a quick second. Freezing, Hand of Chalupa, Profane Ritual. Mark a corpse with Profane. Okay, that's different. Yeah. Currently, you would only really want to take this if you're planning on doing elemental bows. It's nice, but, you know, it's probably only going to be really useful for bossing. Tailwind, it's Tailwind. I don't need to talk about it. People know it's good. It's increased movement, spell, cast speed for attacking, but you lose it all when you get hit. But you're Deadeye, so you're going evasion anyways, so you're less likely to be hit. and you'll be moving faster, and you'll have the dodge roll. So you're just gonna have to be much more of a twitch shooter with this. And then 3% less damage taken by tail on. That's just more benefit off this. Yeah. Yeah, this one was the quickest one because there's the least amount to talk about with it. Just because its Ascendancy is defined. It is the bow Ascendancy. If you are using a bow and you are using projectiles, you go with this one. It has a little flavors. It's got something interesting with the additional marks. And, you know, Tailwind can be used to just generally be evasive and cast more spells and attacks and whatnot. That's an option. But with these two and the mark, you have to, then you're left with, okay, distance, benefits from frenzy charges, skill of 50% chance to be doubled. You have some limited factors here. This one doesn't lend too much creativity outside it, and unfortunately I think its identity as a meta kind of Ascendancy will be maintained for the people that like to play this specific playstyle and like to zoom and blast and all that. Pathfinder, which I find way more interesting. Pathfinder. 50% more flash charges gained. I'm thinking about this now because they removed flasks. I almost was certain that they would change this to effective charms. Because I think right now, flask, because you only have the 2 flasks now. You only have, excuse me, life and mana. Yeah, okay, but wait. Looking ahead, it does connect to brew concoction, so it's supporting a specific playstyle. This is just good. This is just nice, and you would take it if you take brew concoction, basically. And I'll talk about it more when we talk about brew concoction in a second. Life flask effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. Life flask effects do not queue. So basically, this is, you know, same thing that was in Path of Exile 1 with the Pathfinder. Life effects are not removed when served. It's just nice. It's just good. Again, I'll talk about this more when we go to brew concoction. But here we go. The poison nodes. The most damaging poison on enemies you kill is spread to other enemies within 1.5 meters. Now, on how much poisons can get, this is actually much better. Because it seems like poison's been set in a kind of situation where there's a limit of 10. But now you're much more emphasized to have stronger poison hits, kind of like Viper Strike and the Mamba. So this is just nice. This is just good for clear. And this is a good thing about Pathfinder. Poison has a lot of options. You've got Bursting Plague, which is on death explosions. You've got Corrosion, which interacts with Armor Break, which is pretty nice. More damage poison. Obviously you got the arrows, but then you got the grenades from the mercenary. You got Herald the Plague, which just kind of spreads stuff. So not really that one, but Plague Bearer, more poison. You got Poison Chance, you got Poison Burst Arrow. Skeletal Sniper, this on enemies you kill. Okay, this is important. Phrasing is very important because snipers can fire a gas arrow and they can create gas, poison gas. The only thing that's necessary here is that you kill the enemy. So what you can do here is just have the skeletal snipers throw their poison in, then blow up the gas and kill the enemy, and that whatever poisons were on that enemy will spread because technically you killed the enemy. That's again something interesting that you can do. And then toxic growth, more things. Yeah, it seems right now it's a little limited to mostly ranged attacks for poison, but of course you can supplement that with support. So there's plenty of things you can do there. Double the number of poisons you can inflict on enemies, 35% less poison duration. And then, yeah, no, the difference between this and this one is that you don't necessarily need to take this one if you're going poison, because this means that you are leaning more into a higher attack speed poison build. But with the new poisons, you can actually benefit more from a single strong poison, because there's more help for that. So this helps with specific types of build. And again, so far at least, Pathfinder has its strong identity, but these two right here give a lot of breadth of range for the possibilities with poison. So this is useful. And of course, it's not limited. And then brew concoction. This is a big one, because this one is just nice big sampling platter, just right in front of you. Just delicious, delicious food of pick an option. Pick your flavor. Pick what you want to do. You can do any of them. If you like to throw bottles at people, if you like to throw unknown bottles of unmarked liquid into the faces of your enemies, go ahead. Now, I'm not going to go into each and every one of these other than talking about the fact that all of these can be supported, all of these are labeled an attack specifically, and all of them improve, yeah, the fire exposures, which is nice, because later on there's some interesting ones, and then bleed, which is interesting, because at least in the early access, there's not much like identity for bleed, so I mean it's nice to have it here. All right, Traveler's Wisdom grants 5 passive points. So this is the holdover from the Ascendant, and overall this is just nice. And I really like this because in combination with the next two, these kind of give the identity to the Pathfinder to basically work with any kind of build archetype you want. Because what these concoctions do is at least give you a source of exposure for these elements and an ability to do physical, basically any of these, without having to rely on the stats of a weapon. That's the most important thing here. But obviously you can probably be more min-maxed if you focused on the stats on a weapon or specifically like that. But this just gives plenty of options. And of course, 5 passive points is 5 passive points. You could do a lot with that. And what we got here, 70% less movement speed penalty when using skills while moving. This is going to be a lot more of a quality of life than people give credit for. Because now, you could be moving, especially with this, you could be moving pretty much unimpeded for most of your time. And then your speed is unaffected by slows. Slow is a big issue in Path of Exile 1. People sometimes don't think about how much of an issue that is sometimes. So this is going to be pretty useful. And I definitely do like how they separated the Pathfinder. I think this is actually a much better Ascendancy than it is in 1, even before 1 got nerfed. Because this Pathfinder has a lot more utility for things outside of just like flasks and poisons. It has support for basically any element, any damage type you want, and any kind of like potential things. We're going to Witch. The most controversial thing about Bloodmage is this: life remnants gain base skill life costs as mana costs. While active enemies you kill have a chance to spawn life resistance, and critically hitting a target will spawn, overflow maximum life. Now this is gonna be completely dependent on how it feels and the spawn rates of these life remnants, how close they spawn to you and all that. I personally do not mind this in concept. We will have to see when the full game releases how this actually pans out. We're just going to move on quickly from that, because there's not much to talk about this specifically, other than, because this is just a buff, you can't support it, other than it supporting the identity of a blood mage. 10% of spell damage leeches life. That's useful. That's good. That's good, especially if you're going to be using a lot of life. You probably do want to take this. Her curses of infinite duration. Despair, enfeeble, flammability. Heightened curse. No, that's Hex Blast. Hex Blast is in the game. Oh, shit. Temporal curse, that will come back later. Vulnerability. These are just useful. And because I know people are complaining about not having their minion-specific ascendancy, this is good for minions. This isn't just good for you in general. Curses of infinite duration is such a good quality of life. This is good for minions. This is good for potential interactions with like how some people like to self-curse. I know that's an option for a lot of things. 10% damage as extra physical. Just good. Elemental damage also contributes to bleed magnitude. That's insane. That's actually pretty insane, because now you can use basically you could do a comet bleeder. Comet's supposed to have a bunch of damage to it, because I know Doriani's Fist is going to be coming back, and it's going to be doing primarily electricity damage. You could make a fisting bleeder with Bloodmage. We're gonna move on. Gore Spike, increased damage per 40 life. Life Stacker, that's good. You could do some shenanigans with that. That's just an immediate power thing. Sunder the Flesh, holy shit. Base critical chance for spells is 15%. That is so useful. It's behind the critical damage bonus node. Honestly, I think these should be flipped. No, they should be flipped. I think these should be flipped because you are already required to get this node on entrance. You should be able to get this and empower more based on life. And because this one, because 6 applies to more than just life stackers. Gore Spike just improves based off life, and I know you're probably gonna have like 1,000 life, and that's good damage bonus in general, but you want to be able to spec into it to benefit you going deeper into life. This is just generally useful, which I guess probably is why it's behind this, but I don't know. Switch these two. Gasping 25 life is prevented, and that much life is lost over 4 seconds instead. That is Petrified Blood. A slightly weaker version of it, but that's useful. That's extremely useful. That's pretty good. Gain energy too from equipped body armor as extra maximum life. Yeah, no. This was the thing from... This is the Apostate. Weird that it's behind Grasping Wounds. Then I do think all of these should be a separate option that you're allowed to pick from as a kind of benefit for sacrificing one specific node, because effectively, as a blood mage, you only have 3 ascendancy points to choose from instead of 4, because one always goes to this. I still like blood mage. I still like the concept. It just needs some touch up. What do we got here? Altered Flesh. As Fire and Chaos, which is surprisingly a popular defense mechanism from PoE 1. That's just pretty nice. That's pretty good. Nothing to say other than this could lead to some shenanigans regarding self-ignite. No immediate possibilities come up other than this is a good defensive layer and some shenanigans with self-ignite. Yeah. Reserve 25% of life, which is something most things can't do. That's not something you can really do. 1 maximum mana per 6 maximum life. Huh. Interesting. Wait a minute. Did they make an Ascendancy just to make Scales of Justice actually good? Obviously, like, you know, 25% of life, that's a skilled, like, you have less life in general. But if Scales of Justice are back in PoE 2, that's quite a nice amount of life. Obviously, they gotta increase the amount of damage it provides, but that's something I'll be on the lookout for. I'm gonna write that down real quick. But odds will. More reservation, so you can potentially reserve up to 50%. Maximum spirit per 25 life. That completely depends on how useful meta skills are. Not something I can talk about at the moment. Ooh. I didn't even see it was behind all these. I mean, that's fine. It's kind of interesting that if you go down this whole claw node, you basically only have 25% life, but you get a bunch of benefits. But yeah, plenty of options. Maximum spear per 25 life. That's minion. That's minion support right there. That's super useful for minions because that gives you probably a lot more. That gives you a lot more minions, a lot more aura, and a lot more utility. So you can just scale life and get a lot more minions out of it and get more defense because you're reserving 25% of your life. So overall, it's still a loss. Okay, whatever. Maximum energy shield per 8 maximum life. I like these numbers. It's so weird. Program your brain. Program your brain. Maximum energy shield per 8% maximum life. Captain Lance. This is GGG giving you a little treat. I'm not going to talk about it just because, you know, that's just good. That's just if you want to scale off energy shield. Nothing crazy. It's something people know about. Demonic possession, yeah. Demon form, this is the main one. Now, here's the thing about demon form. Boost, you gain demon form every second you remain in demon form, causing your life to be lost. Revert to human form when you reach 1 life. Use a skill as well, or reactivate the skill. I don't know if they talked about it, but if you... The skill's, like, power varies from generally, like, oh, a niche thing that you can use to, like, improve your spells, or if you scale life recovery, you can, like, go past you could potentially have infinite demon form, which is its own gimmick and obviously its own scale on tree. Oh yeah, no, that's what 6 is. So that's the difference. With 5, you oh wait, actually. Oh, that's so nice actually. Cuz that's a choice. That's a limiter. Cuz on one hand, you can have demon form scale way farther. You can, because this will potentially go on until you die. So you could potentially lose more life. But then every demon flame should also be increasing your spell speed. Yeah, no. I like the design here. That's good. Okay, moving on. Pyromactic Pact. Maximum mana is replaced by maximum infernal flame. Yeah, no, all this. I like this. I like this. It's an overheat mechanic. Not something you could really theory craft, because this is going to require a lot of specifics on mana use. And yeah, no, that's going to have to come later. Bringer Flame. Yeah, no, more benefits for keeping your minigun a little hot, but not too hot. While on high Infernal Flame, you and your allies in your presence gain 20% of damage as fire damage. Bringer Flame over here. Yep. Again. So that's just useful. You know, playing with fire to gain more damage. And then yeah, you got your dog. He basically acts as a, oh, what do you call it? Basically acts as the Titan from the Guardian class, the Sentinel. I think it's called the Sentinel. Useful, nice. You could have a pet. Become ignited when you deal a critical hit, taking 50% of your life and energy shield as fire damage per second. You gain 30% more critical damage bonus. That's a lot, but there's also plenty of items in the game that benefit off self-ignite, at least in Path of Exile 1. So this completely depends on which ones have made it back with minimal changes. Overall, this is definitely the minion, quote-unquote, Ascendancy. Just because Bedot's Will gives a designation to, like, sacrifice your own body for more hellspawn kind of deal. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons why you'd like a, you know, this kind of theme. Sometimes you just want to be evil. Sometimes you want to be a demon. Sometimes you just want, you know, more things in life that remind you of hellfire and sin and all that kind of thing. Mostly just because Witchhunter is just strong. Gemling Legionnaire. Honestly, I do kind of like what they did with the mercenary. They gave him very open-ended ascendancies, and I imagine that the third ascendancy they give him is going to be the one that supports a more gunner kind of playstyle. But for now, it seems like they're just, this one's just general, like, okay, quality, good. That's just good. Quality stackers are a thing. This is the quality stacker ascendancy. +1 level to all skill gems. Again, just insanely good. 30% less cost of skills. Skills have 30% more attributes requirement. A give and take, but you know, depending on what you're doing, sometimes less cost is necessary, especially if you're doing a horde loop. 3 additional skill slots. That is going to create some fucky builds. This Ascendancy, you're not going to see a lot at the beginning of early access, but you're going to see a lot more around the end when people are messing around the most they can. 2 copies of the same support gem, that being right there, that's super fucking good. Super good. And then, yeah, you got the defensive ones. This one's just nice. You can min-max it if you wanted to, but that's not something you really want to consider until you have a theme build around. Attributes can be satisfied. Some people are downplaying this one. This one's nice. This one's nice, especially if you just want to meet the requirements of one specific item, but then you want to do fucked shit with it. You want to do stuff that maybe you want some like high armor strength chest piece that has some weird effect on it, but then you want to do stuff with spells or those kind of things. Well, you spend all those passive points on strength. Well, now you don't have to worry about that. All those kinds of builds that relied on the Elegant Hubris jewels in the original game will basically exist in the same form right here. But now it's just an ascendancy point, and you no longer have to... it no longer requires funding and capital to get that kind of build going. And over here, inherent effects from intelligence, strength, and dexterity are doubled! Woo! Attribute stacking! Here we go! Yeah, no, okay. Attribute stacking has been giving an effective ascendancy in the Gemling, which, I mean, you know, it's a Gemling. That's pretty lore accurate. Man, this guy looks cool. And that's nice. Invoker. I've thought a lot about this one, mostly because I was having another identity character crisis between picking Invoker and Titan. I ended up settling on Titan for things that will be discussed later, but for Invoker specifically, I do want to cover the first 2 nodes, because these first 2 nodes solve a lot of issues that I... What the fuck is this music? Yoshi's Woolly World Claudad Beach OST. No, I'm good. Cannot gain spirit from equipment, but you gain 1 spirit for every energy and evasion on your equipped body armor. But then the node after it has 40% less evasion rating, but it also grants you physical damage reduction. These make this monk potentially very strong, because this is along the same lines as the Trickster in Path of Exile 1. And everyone knows that the Trickster, at least as it is right now, is very good. It obviously doesn't, like, scale in the same way, but granting physical damage reduction through evasion rating, that could potentially be very useful. And make you a lot tankier than you probably would be if you just took all the damage nodes on here, because everything else makes this Ascendancy pretty squishy. This is pretty nice. This will definitely be the Ascendancy I go with if there's a very interesting evasion chess piece. Because obviously, you can go for this one without benefiting off the energy shield on this one. It would be nice if you had both, obviously, but you don't necessarily need it, because you can go higher into the evasion rating and get more physical damage reduction at the cost of additional spirit. And then at that point, you would just rely less on metagems or minions or whatever you're running. Faith is a choice. I gotta read this, just because I know people are dogging on oh, I have to cast the spell before doing a boss. Channel Recharge Shield can overcharge your energy shield to double its normal maximum. Channeling ends when you take damage or your energy shield is double its normal maximum. This skill cannot be used if your energy shield already double its normal, or you have no maximum energy shield. Channeling ends when you take damage or energy shield is double. It doesn't say anything about if your energy shield is taken due to cost, if you spend energy shield for something. So, let's say you have a ward loop, and maybe instead of taking damage for it, it's instead actually just taking the cost of energy shield, or you have some kind of setup that instead of mana, you use energy shield to cast or do the attack. Now you can have that going in some kind of loop constantly and just be meditating in the middle, and you're just meditating and you're just shooting the spells out at the boss. Obviously, you're stuck in one place, but I mean, there's also cast while channeling, and you can do like a movement skill or something. At least I'm pretty sure there is. Let me double check. Cast while channeling. Yep. There's cast while channeling, and there should be a movement skill. Flicker strike. Attack. Lightning orb. There you go. So yeah, no. If there is a way to... Channeling ends when you take damage or your energy shield is double its normal maximum. At least in the wording, it doesn't say you have to continuously channel it. If it says, at least right now, it will continuously channel until you stop channeling it. Obviously, we'll have to see this, but I think you, at least in this wording, at least, you can cast something else while this is channeling. Okay. I am the Blizzard and I am the Thunder. Just good. These are just good. These are more damage nodes. You want to do more cold, you want to do more lightning, and maybe you want to do something with Children or Chakra. Those are nice. Unbound Avatar. Yeah, no. That Warden, Path of Exile 1. It's nice. I'm not the biggest fan of Unbound Avatar. At least in concept. You can probably buff it a lot more so that you can get it more consistently, but at least in the idea, you could probably do something with elemental ailments on this. Metascales gain 35% more energy. Now that is completely off the things like cast on shock, cast while channeling, cast on minion deck, cast on melee stun, cast on ignite, cast on kill. That's on the opposite end of the meditate. So there may be a cast while channeling thing here, and you can connect it to Lightning Warp, and then you have Lightning Warp somehow cost energy shield, so you have an auto teleportation build. That's an option, and that only exists if you can somehow turn the mana cost into energy shield. If that exists in the game, then that's useful. Critical hits ignore non-negative enemy elements. That's just nice. That's just good. It's a better version of the Inquisitor node in Path of Exile 1. Nothing really to discuss here other than the damage, the DPS, the deeps. Melee, cock, elemental expression. You express your cock and scatter them to the wind. This one's nice. This one's also interesting because the chance for this explosion, the chance for each effect is dependent on your stats, on which one you're going for. So you can potentially be fire here if you go full strength monk. You go roid monk. But then you would need some way to have heightened critical hit chance for the explosions. Chances are you're probably going to be leaning for the dexterity to get the bolt, or probably the wave for the intelligence. But this one's going to be interesting, and this one's going to have to really depend on how they distribute the stats and how melee works. Honestly, because there's a lot of weapons, specifically melee weapons like the knives and stuff, that lean more into intelligence that are not in the game currently, it's very likely that this specific node will get better as more weapons are introduced. And then Acolyte of Chalupa. Everyone's favorite Dark Knight. Everyone loves the Dark Knight, and here's the Dark Monk. Really hope that the Flames of Chalupa are actually super busted, so that people like go more into the breach and like so like, oh yeah, Waking Dream, I was always a supporter. Like, instead of people going, oh my god, 25% more damage as extra kinetic damage. I love to gamble. Yeah, no. I'm gonna be very quick with the Chalupa. This Ascendancy has been dissected to heavens and back because people think it's way stronger than it probably will be in the game currently. But obviously, Mana Leech is instant, amazing. Mana Leech effects also recover Energy Shield, also extremely interesting. Sheila's Gift, potentially useful depending on your situation. Reality rending. Do you want to gamble for the biggest hit in your life and have it in purple? This is what the one you want. Into the Breach. Very interesting because it kind of turns it into, and this is going to be such a weird analogy, into like a Kirby kind of situation where you're like every so often like, oh, do I need to top up on something? Okay, let me grab a blue flame and oh, bunch of purples around the boss. Grab it up and throw my stuff on. And then the effects and duration show this flame you are doubled, so you can lean completely into temporary buff effects for yourself. That's actually really, really neat. And I do like that. Because that's an entire build. Honestly, this is pretty build defining as an Ascendancy kind of like branch. Just like it. Embrace darkness. Remove all. I don't need to cover this. If you're watching my video, you've already seen people talk about this. This has potential. This has a lot of potential for being able to give you a lot of extra damage as long as you can protect the darkness. It'll lead to a very specific kind of playstyle that's a lot more hit and run. People also got to recognize that, because you're not going to be a god gamer at the like beginning of the game, and you're probably not going to be a god gamer at this game for a while. It's going to take a minute. But until you're a god gamer, these Ascendancies support a playstyle that is hit and run, where you are just running in, you're feeling your shit, you're rat-tat-tat-tying the boss, but then you get hit, and you lose a bunch of darkness, and you're like, oh fuck, and then you back off, and then you gotta let it regen completely. And that really has to be something you have to be okay with if you go into this. That's my review. It's good, it's strong, it's got a bunch of build-defining things. Everyone's talked about it. And I'm a hipster, and I don't like talking about things other people like to talk about. The Warbringer. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't actually looked at this very much. All I know is that Anvil's weight. Break armor equal to 10% of damage of hit damage dealt. Very important to note, this does not require an attack. It does not require physical damage. Any damage you do will now break armor. Well, it only benefits physical, but I mean, you still got plenty of options. And then, yeah, you basically broke down why this is broken, and you probably... We don't know. We'll have to see in the original game. If it is broken, it is broken, and they'll fix it real quick. Encased in Jade. Consume all stacks of Jade to grant a buff of duration that absorbs all damage from hits up to a maximum based on the Jade consumed. Yeah. Again, this is a flavor kind of thing. Now here's the thing. It's a skill, and you can support it. Now, I don't know how and I'm saying this right now, I will do something weird with this skill. But I will do something weird with this skill. The fact that you can support it and it's a spell means that somehow, you know, outside of just turning it into like a massive, long, like, self-damage thing, there's a way. Wouldn't that be something people who do Ward Loop would want? To have an ability that could potentially just take a bunch of damage to, like, fit in a spot in their loop if there was, like, a broken spot. There's potential here. It's going to take some thinking and maybe a month into the game. Ancestral Spirits. Summons an Ancestral Moon to fight you. If the Toman summons dies, Ancestral Spirit does too. It's a good flavor. I like it. It's going to require some tinkering, specifically with your options as Ancestral Spirits, but, you know, it's good. Totem's Life Before You. If you want to do totems, you take the Totem Wooden Wall. Aim for the chance to block. They need to up this back to 50. They really do. There's going to be higher bases in the game. 35% less block chance, can block damage from all hits while shield is not raised. That's just good. It changes the new block to the original block in Path of Exile 1. And that could potentially lead to much more very different playstyles. So you're not relying on a shield completely. And then, yeah, Warcry, these things. This one's pretty build defining in and of itself. You spam your cries and you blow up the corpses. And then finally, the big one. Titan. Now, I'm going to say the most surprising thing about this. About what I plan to do. I want Staggering Palm. Specifically because your hits are crushing blows and 40% more damage against heavy stun enemies. If you want to be stunning, not just necessarily bosses. That's the thing people aren't really considering about this, because obviously people are thinking about stun in the concept of stunning bosses because that gives you boss opportunities. No, having all your hits crushing blows is super useful for packs too, because right here, normal enemies are primed for stun at 40% versus uniques and rares, which are at like 70. That means for something like Staggering Palm, which dashes to an enemy, heavy, and if it heavy stuns, causes quarterstaff and projectiles to shoot projectiles as well. That also means that you can have stings that would relate to stun. You can do this. Devastate with Staggering Palm. Support skills fully break armor when they inflict a heavy stun. So when the normal enemy is primed for stun, or even the heavy, even the boss, you would want to switch it out for staggering palm, slams, and every second slam skill. This right here, this is the slam tree. This helps define this. I like the stun one more because it's not defined specifically just for stuns. This works for all hits and all damage against heavy stun enemies. So you can be a spellcaster, you can be an attacker, you can be a projectile user. Those are the most useful stuff. Mysterious Linen is 15% more maximum life. It's very rare to get life on the tree now, so this is actually very unique and useful. The body armor is doubled. That's also good. Physical damage. And obviously everyone's talking about 50% increased in the small sack. Everyone loves the chest that they put on the back of the Titan. It's very nice. It's very cute. It really puts his outfit together. Also, if you guys didn't notice, he's huge because look at the skeletons in the background. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of options here. And in particular, especially with the 50% increased small effective node, I can do my kind of Mimi quarterstaff physical build, because if I do, which does support it, there's Vaulting Impact, which is a slam, there's Whirling Assault, there's Wind Blast. There's a bunch of options that are more physically based, so you can support that. And because you're Titan, and the Titan side of the tree has a lot more physical nodes, and the two-hander nodes near it, you can get more support off that, and potentially make up for any kind of lost space you are using for not using specifically the maces. Perfect strike on the stun enemy. That's something I definitely want to do. It's about that time anyways. I've run through basically all the Ascendancies, and I've talked about what I wanted to talk about specifically with the Titan, which I'm doing my very... Actually, I wouldn't say it's completely off. I wanted to do Unarmed. Unarmed was on my list, but because there isn't, direct support for it currently, there's only like a couple skills. Like, I'm not going to subject myself to doing something that isn't intended to be into the game just yet. But yeah, no. Overall, love all these Ascendancies. It was tiring to talk about all of them, but I mean, I definitely had thoughts on most of them. I didn't force myself. I talked for a while about it, and I got at least one initial build I'm thinking about doing. So that's fun. That's interesting.